What's good, everybody? It's your boy Code Anime. I can come back with another video reviewing and critiquing Helluva Boss Season 1. Let's get into it. I'm wasting time with this intro. Now, I know the stuff that I usually review is the anime stuff, and Helluva Boss ain't anime. I'm not even going to debate anybody on that. They think that's an anime. But still, I could not keep my thoughts contained, especially after Season 1 finally finishing, wrapping up with, Episode 8, the controversy episode that, you get the point. But nevertheless, I enjoy critiquing, reviewing, and sharing my thoughts on something I quite frankly enjoy, and trust me, I never really do reviews like this. So let's get right into it, lads. Episode 1 was pretty standard. It filled all the quotas and check marks of being a whole episode. Plot twist, character introduction, and what's this sitcom about? It wasn't nothing special, nothing bad, nothing good either. Just pretty solid. There really ain't much to critique nor review about it. I'll admit, like the rest of the crowd, some of the humor was a hit and a miss, and I didn't have much of a reason to care for the horny bird at all. But at least this was an episode where the series introduces a villain that doesn't come back at all. There's nothing but slight praise for this being a decent first episode overall. And that's it. Only way this could improve is if Moxie didn't fuck up the mission having PTSD about his family. Yeah, that's right, I'm watching Season 2. For our first episode of Helluva Boss, there was no real plot holes, which is good, but also not saying much. Overall, this episode earns itself a 5 out of 10.
We got it, boys.
The fact that they waited till she was dead just to kill the rest. Episode 2 was a big step up from Episode 1. One, we actually got to know Stolas and what's going on in his life, and he's earned title of #1 dad. Makes me care for him more. 2, we get some lore information like hell is divided into 7 rings, with each having their own prince of said ring, and imps are hellborn and not humans that died and went to hell. 3, Fizzaroli and Alex Brightman. I really thought that was Michael Keaton from Beetlejuice, but still, do I need to say more? 4, we get good backstory to Blitz Pass. This episode had more good moments than bad moments, and even when, the holes were showing, I could gloss over it with good points. This episode was showing. One critique I will give this episode is that Stolas and Octavia's relationship as father and daughter felt a bit too early. Since this was a Stolas episode, it makes sense that naturally we get to see his family and personal life when he isn't horny. But the scene where Octavia just couldn't take it being at Lululand anymore and Stolas going to go find her and comfort her just felt a tiny bit rushed. Like, don't get me wrong, it needed to happen, but it wouldn't have been better if we had an episode or two between them more like in the past, like with the beginning of the episode to make the scene more impactful. If they would have done that, I would have given this episode a higher rating. And now onto the poking phase. The poking phase, where I poke about the episode being bad and deducting points for it, and it can't be considered a perfect episode if there are holes to poke. So let's poke some holes. Number 1, why does Stolas need protection when he can just do this the entire time? Or is he just that horny he brings this plaything while he's trying to trip his daughter? You don't deserve that either, you sick shit. Number 2, how does Millie actually hit her shot here, but can't shoot for shit in a carnival game? If logic was applied here for her awful shooting skills, I'm pretty sure Stolas would have took the bullet despite it not killing him. Number 3, I don't think there's a third plot hole, which is a good thing. That earns half a point for less holes. There ain't much harsh criticism you can give to episode 2, and I'm done cockwriting this episode. Rightfully, this episode earned itself a 9 out of 10, and its title is strongest episode in Helluva Boss, even with Season 2.
So, what would you like to do now?
Oh, can we go to Stylish Coles? They sell weird taxidermy there.
Okay.
Thanks, Dad. You're okay sometimes.
Thank you, Via.
Here you go, sir. You earned this.
You won't win your hottie here a prize.
Let me try.
Also, how's this not illegal? The fact this episode plot, rising and falling climax, and the climax of this episode was over a parking space makes this whole episode hilarious. There was a lot of good moments, bad moments, and secondhand embarrassing moments. The good being Blitz, ex's girlfriend, I guess. More Moxie and Millie, with Moxie also being drunk. And Luna getting some character screen time. The bad? A lot of plot holes in which I'll get to. But first, the secondhand embarrassment. Mainly this scene.
Yeah. I'm Luna.
Okay. I'm Vertex!
At least he played along. In this scene,
All right, sluts. Get ready to suck a lot of pig dick.
try explaining this to your girlfriend. The secondhand embarrassment really makes me cringe and deduct points from this episode rating. But the poking phase? There aren't enough curtains to cover the amount of holes here. Number 1. The imps just stop giving a fuck about the challenge and just start killing randomly. Number 2. How does Moxie Millie know which of the humans are on the list? And number 3. Fuck human disguises and staying in the shadows. Number 4. Whatever happened to no loose shots? Number 5. Going back a few, but my girlfriend pointed out how Luna was a part of the original plan Blitz made up out of his ass before, adding her into the mission. I swear that must have been the animation era. And then number 6, which doesn't really count because I was gonna add how did Veronica and her crew get to the human world, but in the recent episode in season 2 they already explained that, so yeah, that whole no longer counts. One big critique I had to this episode is that Blitz being an overprotective dad really came out of nowhere. My girlfriend says it felt way too early for Blitz to start acting like this, but I argue different. Like legit, it felt out of nowhere because we don't even get no foreshadowing in the first episode that he had a side like that, nor in episode 2. Although to be fair, Luna wasn't even in episode 2 at all, and not even in the pilot itself, and the pilot wasn't even canon. That's all the fair holes and critiques I can poke in this episode. Overall, the episode just gave itself a 5 out of 10. This episode didn't have special moments that really defines what this sitcom is trying to play out, and this does not count as a special moment either.
Oh, fuck, Blitz! Why can't you stay out of my face for like 5 minutes?
Because I adopted you! And that should mean something!
Oh, what does it matter? You're not my real dad. I was almost 18.
It still counts!
Well, it shouldn't. I didn't need you then, asshole. I don't now.
Rather, this episode just shows what a normal day in the life it is for the imps in the office. And I'm pretty sure this is what the imps go through on a daily. Some wacky bullshit while getting sidetracked and throwing insults at each other. I won't even sugarcoat it. This episode was by far the weakest and a waste of time. Number 1, as soon as they saw Lyle, they could have just ended it the second he was about to kill himself. Number 2, if Lyle was about to kill himself because he was an old man, why didn't he just go back into, the aging machine and reverse the effects, making himself young? The only good thing about this episode was introducing some characters from heaven, which is also the bad thing about the episode. The cherubs are fortunately being added into the pile of Helluva boss villains that never makes a comeback. They go ahead and someone just makes a tier list with them being first. We don't get to know more on heaven other than that it's strict as hell, and even having like a minor incident will make you consider a fallen angel by standards. There are so many ways this episode could have been truly better, but the writers just felt like they really didn't know how to. This episode could have went 2 ways for me. 2 ways. The imps kill him off the moment they spot him. Instead of running along with the cherub's bullshit, Lyle ends up in hell, but the cherubs go to hell and try to redeem Lyle into heaven just because he was that important. Or they're just really dedicated to their jobs. They try and try until they see that he really can't be redeemed after learning how twisted he really is and return to heaven with a failed mission. Or, hear me out for this. This episode is all about the cherubs in heaven instead of the imps in another day at hell. Like, it could be about the cherubs and how they live in the opposite life and jobs compared to the imps in hell. There could be a lot of lore given in heaven and what it's really like up there and how it's not all that cracked up to be. Like using the Lord's name in vain could lead to a punishment. Accidentally committing a death in second degree form makes you a fallen angel, and no matter what you do, your every action and movement in heaven is being watched, jotted down, and judged. Plus, they could have some heaven jokes like, hell has over 10,000 filthy demons down there, and we only have 143 angels up here. I died since birth. My mom just smoked too much cigarettes. What are we doing wrong? Now the cherubs still run into IMP trying to save their next client, but instead of running with their gag of saving their client, IMP still kills Lyle on the spot. He goes to hell. Cherubs try to redeem him, and it ends up two ways from here. Two ways. They give up on him, realizing that why he really is a demon and he ends up in hell, or they still end up accidentally killing him in second degree form and get banished from heaven forever. They reside in hell for the rest of their lives. Tell me, this does not make a better story, folks. And then they don't have to come back for vengeance against the imps because they wouldn't have no real beef with them. So they decide they want to be redeemed back into heaven, since that's their main focus now, after being considered fallen angels. But they don't know how until they end up seeing Charlie's passion project about redeeming demons and go to redeem themselves. The story literally writes itself right here, folks. And it's really a disappointment that they don't even utilize it. To legit come up with a concept of an episode, it was highly wasted potential. The only thing that could have redeemed this episode was everything I listed from here for a higher rating, giving the cherubs more screen time, giving them some heaven lore. So if they would have done any of that, all of that, please, I would have given it a 4.5, if not higher. A higher rating than that, depending on how they done it and executed it. But no, this episode rightfully and deservedly earned itself a 2 out of 10. Trust me, it's literally a waste of time.
Yes, you can say you have a holy operation here, Blitzo.
Get out.
I said, oh.
No, I'm serious. Get the fuck out!
You can tell they literally did not know how to end this episode. I'll be real, I'm not a fan of Moxie's character, and the fact that this was a Moxie episode just did not leave a good taste in my mouth. And I'll give a fair critique why I don't like Moxie as a Helluva Boss main character. He's a self-absorbed, spineless imp that feels he needs praise to feel better about himself, when this man has one of the best relationships in all of fiction. Your wife should be all you need to feel better about yourself. You should be praising yourself that you were even able to hit this. Me personally, I'm not a fan of Moxie's Moxie character, but what I do like about him is that he can prove that he has some Raytheon in his blood and he can grow pair when the moment really calls for it. So that's a positive on him. Then there's Striker, which is probably the best thing that happened in this episode. His intimidation, crooked, glaring cowboy smile, and obvious betrayal was just the right amount of good villain for this show. The one big critique I have in here is that this episode should have focused more on Millie more than Moxie. Since, we're meeting her parents and all, and it's Striker that should have more vendetta against Millie than Moxie. I mean, Millie's reason is because this asshole is double-crossing her boss, attempting to kill his fuck buddy, nearly killed her husband, and faked this whole background to work for her family. Compared to Moxie's reason to not liking Striker is because what? He's you but better? Sounds like a skill issue to me, Moxie. Honestly, Millie deserves this episode without a second thought, but instead she was underutilized and pushed to the sidelines, and unfortunately this is where it starts from here, that she was heavily underutilized as a character within the series. Moving on to the poking face of the duck points of this episode, we have number 1. When Moxie was about to be killed by Striker, why didn't he grab his gun from his vest? I know he mentioned he should have used his gun earlier, not earlier, but later. But he could have at least picked up the royalty killing sniper that was right in front of him and just shoot Striker with it. Number 2. Millie is strong enough to lift up her boss while arguing with a cherub, can 1v1 an entire mob of mafia members, but she ain't strong enough to kill Striker with those stabs she was giving him. Number 3. If Millie made it in time, why didn't she just stab Striker in the head, slice his neck open, or repeatedly stab him in the head like a coconut instead of stabbing his ribcage? Number 4. How did Blitz know Striker was going to assassinate Stolas? He said he didn't want to stand in the crown with a bunch of hillbillies. That does not give an explanation, nor foreshadowing that he knows Striker wasn't who he thought he was. And legit, the only way this episode could have done better in any regard is making this more on Millie, and Millie lore, and background lore for family too, why not? But to be honest, I did not enjoy this episode overall. Striker was basically the only good thing about this episode. It earns a 4 out of 10. This episode could have easily improved into a 6.5 out of 10 if they made this a Millie episode and her and Striker going at it like a 1v1 style before Moxie and Blitz take over the fight. If you wanted to make Moxie win her parents' approval, you can still do that, just make it a subplot rather than a main plot, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a series with a character trying to win somebody's approval.
Your sister doesn't have a neighborhood head count.
She so does.
It doesn't count if they don't find the body.
How did this character get so much merch? Episode 6 was a good step up, and the one time I didn't mind this being a Moxie episode. Of course this was a Moxie and Blitz episode, but my point stands. This episode was so raw with facing their inner demons. That's an ironic sentence to say. Demons facing their inner demons. That's one way to explain this sitcom. Anyways, Moxie facing his inner demons with the truth that he's a good person and a great killer, but his personality of being a bottom bunk bitch really holds him back, and he really needs to man up and grow a pair to have some backbone. Meanwhile, Blitz facing his inner demons with everyone he's burned bridges with, and he just has them, to which I can personally relate to, but he just makes it consume, he lets it consume him to the point it just makes sense why he's a jackass asshole that doesn't want anybody to get close to him, but he'll get close to you just so he can burn the bridge first and it'll hurt less. Which in hindsight still ain't a good thing. You're only hurting others worse than hurting yourself, and it makes sense why other demons like Verostica and Fenzaroli doesn't want shit to do with him anymore. He ended up doing the same to Stolas by the time he realizes that he can just get an Osmodeus crystal and use that for his company to portal to the human world. And Blitz's inner demon segment is my one big critique, because honestly, a character trait like that is too real just to be taken as a slap of humor with seriousness mixed in it. Like, that right there is some serious trauma that requires some hard ass therapy to recover from. And I want to see them take this side of Blitz more seriously, to the point it can make an audience shed a tear. Like, for real, doing this in real life is like a daily nightmare that eats away your low self-esteem. It's like guilt the size of a building, and it just gets awkward and more guiltier when you just bump into people that you burn bridges with. Those that have this lifestyle, let me know in the comments, because you're not alone. As for the poking face in this episode, there's not that much, so this will be a quick poke. Number 1, how the hell were they able to fit this bazooka in the little bag? Number 2, why didn't Luna just pull out her phone and turn on her flashlight to read the spell book so they could escape? Number 3, if the agents needed proof, why didn't they voice record, collect some DNA samples when they had Moxie and Blitz captured, or gotten a pee sample, an x-ray scan for their anatomy, or even confiscate whatever demonic possessions they had on them? Like, if I was their boss, I would need more than footage for proof these are demons. Looking at the footage that they had automatically recorded, I would think these are some insanely skilled terrorist teenagers that are dressed up cleverly to cover their identity. Well, I mean, it's Stolas. No magic trick in the world could explain this. A way this episode could have been better is making the agents more intimidating. I like the goofy, nerdy charm energy they give off like these are college buddies that landed the same job, but they could have been more intimidating at their job, or at least smarter at it. And also not make these another set of villains that never makes a comeback. I swear, how many villains we got in that count now? This is getting sad. Overall, this episode earns a light 7 out of 10. Would have been a 6 out of 10, but how can you deny this fight segment, that choreography, and the agents just being ragdolls to show how badass these demons are when you fuck with them? I enjoyed it. It was different, but a good kind. Better than watching the imps go through some wacky bullshit in their everyday lives. Also, I just want to clarify, it took me 6 rewatches to understand Blitz's truth serum. Episode 7 was a bigger step up from episode 6, because good lord and how the imps travel to different rings, gave me insight that the best couple in fiction has only been married for a year, gave us another Prince of Hell that was just conveniently at his own club to interrupt the love song so he can listen to some shit like this. Yeah, that's his Modi's move right here. Yeah, see wrong one. Although for an episode I consider my personal favorite of the season, there's still holes to poke here. Like for instance, number 1. When Luna opens the portal, instead of her reciting the chant of the spell, she just sits there like drinking and then puts her drink on top of the page. It falls over and bam, activates the spell. Like, what? Number 2. As soon as the crew comes back from the human world, where the fuck are their human disguises? You wouldn't think after being captured by the CIA and lucked out with Stolas coming to save their ass, they'd be more careful in the human world from there on. But fuck me, I guess. We're in the woods. Who need disguises? Number 3. How can Asmodeus call out and expose Stolas for dating Blitz when he clearly is dating Fizzaroli? Either that's bad writing, or that's that's Asmodeus being a real hypocrite. I'm pretty sure it's just his character being a hypocrite, but hey, I'm still calling it out. Number 4. I thought Blitz was trying to lay low since he saw Fizzaroli hosting the club. Man wasn't taking shit from nobody about his favorite couple being talked down. Number 5. Asmodeus kicks Moxie and Millie out the club for exposing their love like it's nobody's business, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he does the same thing behind closed doors with Fizzaroli. He really is a hypocrite. Number 6. I'm not deducting points off for this, but it just really shows that he's hurting himself even more keeping his picture in his phone. A better way this episode would have gone though is Blitz and Stolas fucking each other. I'm joking. But for real though, this episode would have been better if Blitz wasn't such a fucking stalker and a manipulative asshole. Man only called Stolas just so he could get through the entrance of the club, hardly conversates with him at the table, and doesn't even comfort him after taking him home from an embarrassing call out. I'm not gay, let's make that clear, but just kiss and fuck already. Moxie and Millie deserve better in this episode for the poor treatment they received from the call out of Asmodeus, that what they have is love and not lust. If he asks me, I say it's a mixture of both. But they at least deserve a vacation away from Blitz's constant stalking. I swear this man filled a happiness so hard that he needs to stalk a married couple just to feel happy. Jesus fucking Christ, this is my boss. I would quit and get a restraining order on the spot. Seeing Fizzaroli hosting and hearing Asmodeus sing and talk and listening to the musical number carried this episode so hard that critically this episode earns an 8 out of 10. Song goes hard on repeat.
Who's at your table? Is your date even Prince? Stolas, is that you?
Are you sleeping with an imp? Woo!
Dear God, the moment I heard Kesha as the voice actor for Beelzebub, all the allegations made more sense than me figuring out why my elementary school crush didn't like me back. And it's such a shame that they couldn't get Kesha to sing the musical either, but at least she's a part of the series. Now I will say the fact that this is a Luna episode was so well deserved that I didn't even realize that she needed her own episode until now. But I won't lie, I never felt so much secondhand embarrassment cringe moments than everything this girl goes through in this party. Trying to fit in, quickly getting into an argument when you was trying to join in the conversation, being a lost puppy around that only friend you know, and then having an awkward conversation with a friend, like with your friend party friends that tries to conversate with you, and then quickly wanting to leave after the main event just started. Like, Jesus Christ, I've been to parties multiple times and stopped going for those exact reasons until the last one I went to. I learned how to be a party animal. It's fun, and then it's a headache. Lucky for Luna, she didn't go through that because she was just chilling and talking. Lucky bitch. Beelzebub? I won't lie, at first impressions, I thought she was gonna be a party bitch. No, she is figuratively and literally a party animal that genuinely cares and makes sure that everyone's having a good time before she has a good time. She's a good host and even makes sure that the party amateurs have a good time. If only there were actual host parties that this raw, that, you know, genuinely cared. As far as hosts go in this poking phase, number 1, why would Luna try and conversate with these bitches knowing good well what kind of shit they are? Number 2, it's not okay to call someone a bitch in hell? Bruh, who gives a fuck? It's hell. Number 3, I thought Luna wanted to leave because she didn't feel like she couldn't fit in. You telling me all it took was her dad's street cred to be brought up in Periwinkle the Third. By the way, that's his canon name by Busy Pop after fans were harassing her Twitter for this dude's name. And bam, she wanted to give it like a second chance. I really wasted no time with that moment. Number 4, you telling me Blitz couldn't open this a moment ago, but then a couple seconds later he pops the lid off and chucks the drugs like it's fresh shit in the toilet? And all it took was Luna trying to hype him up too. Number 5, the fact that the Princess of Gluttony is disgusted by someone overindulging her juice is ironic and a plot hole to her whole existence. But to be fair, it wasn't Blitz in overindulging her juice she was mainly disgusted about, but rather this man doing it just because he was slowly killing himself drinking it. Number 6, either everyone is too high and drunk, or they're just unfazed at Beelzebub transforming to her true form. Because how does no one not notice this? Number 7, one good thing my girlfriend pointed out as we watched this episode together is in each of the rings, there's a Hellborn of different species. We got ant demons, goat demons, hound demons, fish demons, succubus demons, sinner demons, and then like there's some robot demons. Where the fuck are the insect demons, considering Beelzebub is an insect demon? And there's crossbreeding, and she's clearly one of them. So where in the hell are the insect demons? As long as it took for this episode to come out, I'm glad it did. Really, I am. But that doesn't mean that it was all that great either. If you want to know the honest rating for this longer time awaited episode, it earned itself a 4.7 out of 10. It was a good episode, not great, but it was good. More secondhand embarrassment really, but I do really like Beelzebub as a character, and the fact that this is a Luna episode, it's good that, you know, the other undeveloped characters are finally being, you know, utilized and having the spotlight instead of this being what my girlfriend calls it, the Blitz and Stolas show. Blitz having an orgy to like get over his bad night, though, like did not give good points this episode, especially since he was doing this on purpose. Man playing with 4 different demons' feelings and then speed running how fast he can burn bridges with ants at the party. Honestly, I'd kick him out too and send his ass home if I was Beelzebub. She was only being a good hostess and Blitz was fucking it up. To be honest, there's no real way you could improve this episode except by fixing the holes I poked, but I do have one critique like the other real fans that gives their big critique. I would change Beelzebub's entire design. That design is a whole nightmare. Appearance-wise and animation-wise. Like, legit, imagine animating this character to spin around in the air 20 times and you haven't gone insane yet. I would keep Beelzebub being a crossbreed though, but instead of like a Phoenix Fox bee demon, why not a Hellhound bee demon, since this ring seems to be like a home ring for Hellhounds. Like, represent your dogs, and then I would remove some of that nightmarish pattern design on her to, you know, make it go easier in the eyes and the hands. Keep the insect traits though, I really do like that. I thought that was very clever. But I will also tone down the eyeliner on her, cause like, dear God, was it enough? those are my thoughts and overall ratings for each episode for Helluva Boss Season 1. For all the episodes combined and the rating for the entire Season 1, it earned itself a 6.2 out of 10, which honestly is pretty fair given that this show just has ups and downs, and moments that it doesn't take itself seriously when it's trying to. I'll be honest, as far as the characters go, Blitz is my least favorite character in the show, with Moxie right behind him. I legit just don't like Blitz's character, and I don't feel bad for him in the slightest, and why should I? He does his shit to himself on purpose. He's one of those people that meets up with you, does a one night stand, and then either leaves or gets to know you more just so the pain will hurt more when he does leave. And people like that deserve no sympathy, but that is to say that they do need tremendous help, and he seriously needs it. Blitzo, get some help. Stop hurting the people you claim that you care about and learn to love yourself. I don't know what happened to him in the past, but at this point, I don't care anymore, and he deserves to die alone for it. I'm not going to go through each character and describe how I feel about them. Only my most favorite and most hated will I do so. So I will keep this short and brief with the other characters. Moxie, you're a bitch. Millie deserves better as a character. Luna, I really don't know how to feel, since she's not really established as a character. She's more of a background reactionary character than a side character. Striker was cool and intimidating. The Cherubs should have had their own episode. Farasika was just Farasika. I don't care for the agents knowing goodwill that we won't see them again. Octavia only exists so that we can forgive and love Stolas. Stella already knew she was a bitch from the beginning. Stolas, get your life and priorities straight. Asmodeus was alright. He did his job. And last, and certainly my favorite character of this entire show, is Aroli. I love how quirky he is due to his robotic limbs. He fits the part of a demon with a charm. He looks entertaining, sounds like your average small that smokes 12 packs a day, and is great in popularity. His animation frames makes him feel just like a jack-in-a-box, like he's supposed to be springy and stretchy and leapy, and his personality just adds to that. The only thing I don't like is that I can tell that he didn't get far in his life by making his own decisions, because you can tell by looking at his facial expressions when duo-sing with Asmodeus. It's just like he's trying to impress him or make sure the lyrics he spout out was just what Asmodeus wanted to hear. And anytime Asmodeus berates Moxie, Fizzaroli would just take a quick sec to realize, like, oh shit, let me point at this loser for you, Asmodeus. We're shaking our head out knowing him. Shame on you, you limp imp. Someone at his table? Let's check him out. Like, just by his facial expressions through this number, it shows he's more of a sheep than a shepherd. But I can tell and I can understand, because like when you're at the top where you can peak in popularity, you don't want to fuck it up, and you certainly don't want Blitzo to come and fuck it up either. Seriously, fuck that guy. And that's season 1 and my critical take from it. I recommend giving it a watch, but don't expect it, to be next level god tier or defining. This show has its own problems, and it shows. If you're to take this show seriously, I suggest turning your brain off like some idols of mine I know on YouTube that already does. Nuxtaku. And then like, subscribe, and give your honest opinion on if I should do a gaming channel. I've been thinking about that for a while. Peace.
Ah. 8 days and it's finally finished. I'm hungry.
Leave me alone!